Welcome everyone to Slay Your Dragons, a podcast where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons and depression and D&D being a catch-all for all types of RPGs and fantasy games, and depression being a catch-all for various types of mental health that people in the community and people in our society today seem to be struggling a lot with. And what we'll be doing in this series is talking to different people from the community and just exploring the connection between D&D and mental health and how it can be something positive in people's lives, giving them something to cope with mental health. So today we have Rick. If you're in the D&D community on Twitter, chances are that you probably know him. He's definitely a positive force in the community, especially the follow Fridays. There's always a lot of FF lists kicking out there every
Absolutely.
Friday, and Rick is I've really come to see him as a very positive role model influence in the community. So Rick, thanks for joining
Appreciate
me.
that.
Glad to have you on.
My pleasure.
So why don't can you just tell me a little bit about yourself before we get into
Sure.
the topic at hand here?
Well, I'm a dad of three. I've got two that are pretty well grown. They're in the 20s, which is good. And then I've got a young one who actually deals with some special needs with being autistic spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, watching dad game, it's really drawn her out. Seeing me with some of my home game sessions,
Oh yeah,
she
yeah.
really enjoys that, and it draws her out to talk and be open with people. So for me, I've always loved gaming because I've always seen it as both fun, creative, but also a medication in a way that
Mm,
helps people to overcome some of the challenges in
for
their life,
sure.
whether it be mental, physical, emotional. That was a big draw for me into gaming because I know myself, I coped with anger issues as a kid.
Right.
So anger sometimes led to depression and other things that I had to deal
Mm-hmm.
with. And it's always been a positive for me. It always created an environment that I felt was safe. So it drew me into gaming, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm a geek. I'm a self-professed geek. I'm proud of it. I love
Absolutely.
the title and letting that flag fly as high as possible.
Yeah.
So
It's
for
something
me to do
we can
things,
fly openly now. Like it's amazing how
I know, right?
geekdom has become mainstream in a way. It's kind of weird to put those two
It
words
so
together,
has.
but it really has. You know, there's this explosion of interest and popularity when it comes to all things geek and nerd, comic books,
It
and
is,
role playing
yeah.
games, that kind of stuff. It's huge now. It's big.
Well, and you would never think some of the people, like we were out at a hot topic today towards lunchtime,
Oh yeah.
and my fiance and I go in for all the pops that are in there. And our gal that was working with us, I asked her, I said, "Have you tried D and D?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." She goes, "My family wants to get together and do it, but we
Yeah,
just have a
that's
hard time
awesome.
with our schedules."
Yeah.
And it's just neat to, when you hear somebody starting to geek out on Harry Potter and other things, and then you ask them, "Have they tried D and D?"
Yeah.
And almost always it's a yes or
Yeah.
some sort of positive. So it's really come a long way from that
It has
backroom
definitely.
satanic game that everybody
Yeah.
used to,
Going back to the
you
80s
know,
satanic panic. Yeah.
exactly. We were all going to hell playing D&D. So it just was really misunderstood, I think, back in the day.
Yeah, and definitely had a very negative view attached to it for many years, where people saw it as this kind of weird, obscure thing that people were doing, behind closed doors, and
Yeah.
that's really changed. I mean, I meet the occasional person who still they hear D&D and they're kind of like, oh, what's that? But for the most part, people just understand it as this community driven board game. I mean, it's more than a board game, but
Oh,
for
sure. I
it's
mean,
that's kind
today,
of the essence of it, right? Where it's just a game that people are playing together, and the fact that there's role play, the fact that there's this
yeah,
immersion into a character has I think it's interested a lot of people who want to experience something other than their real lives.
it has.
You know?
And if you look at it like I'm wearing one of Maddie's. So Maddie, you probably know So Maddie.
Oh
He's
yeah, yeah,
well known in the community. So I'm wearing some of the So Nerd wear, which didn't have a lot of avenues for shirts or things to wear proudly back in the day. Now it's like everybody in the community is coming out with creative ways for us to show, yes,
yeah,
I'm a gamer and proud of it.
yeah, for
And and
sure.
and you think about it when you deal with issues that are esteemed issues,
Hmm.
to have something you can proudly display
Yeah.
and everybody around you relates. Even
Yeah.
today, a jock could relate to it.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
a loner can relate to it. A popular person can relate to it.
Yeah.
It transcends the different type of
Yeah.
stereotypes of people.
Well, you look
And,
at sort of somebody like Joe Manganiello, right? Or Vin
yeah, who would
Diesel,
have
like these
thought?
these guys who are like they're big and buff action stars, and they've kind of got
Yeah.
this persona to them, and here they are like getting like heavily involved in D&D, running it, out of their houses,
Oh,
and
it's awesome.
him, producing the death saves, shirts
Well,
and jackets and all that stuff that they're doing. I mean, yeah, it's really it's broadened its appeal. It's no longer a game for, the weirdos hanging out in the basement. It's anybody and
yeah.
everybody is like, oh, what's that? Yeah, I'm interested in playing that.
Well,
So
look at the guys like Stephen Colbert.
yeah,
Here's the late night guy who's a comedian who's
yeah,
sitting there with Joe, and they're geeking out right there on the
I know
show.
that was amazing to
How many
watch.
years ago would that have been looked at as just so wrong? And they would have
Yeah.
been ostracized. And yet now it's just welcoming. It's like, hey, and it's a great way to get more people to try it. And
Hmm.
it's come so far to reach out to so many people, and I love that about it. It's an
Yeah.
ambassadorship to bringing all kinds of people together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of just the involvement in the game, what is your current involvement in the
I
genre D&D RPGs? What does it look like right now?
it's a great question. I'm a guy that loves to branch out. So right now I'm running Pathfinder because Pathfinder's D&D 3.5
Yeah.
somewhat fixed, as people say. 5e is the real
Yeah.
fix,
Yeah.
but it's an in between fix, and I
Yeah.
just got hooked on it. Now,
For
will
sure.
I go to 2e? Probably eventually, but I love the setting. Like for
Yeah.
me, campaign wise, the world, the adventure paths, love them. They're just
Hmm.
well written. And what I love about them is they're inclusive. So
Very
you
much
have
so. Yeah.
transvestite characters, you have binary characters, you have ones that are LGBTQ characters,
Hmm.
and it's just it's opened it to so many people
Hmm.
to feel like who they are. They can be who they want to be,
Hmm.
and that's why Pathfinder drew me before 5e did, because it
For
was
sure.
just so open to all that. I love Numenera. Monty Cook
Oh
did a
yeah.
great
Yeah.
job with Numenera,
Definitely. Yeah.
and can't say enough great things about Monty and Shanna. They just have done so much to even make it more about the story and less about the mechanics.
More role play. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you know Brian Feister. Brian did the Open Legend RPG,
Yes.
so I got
Yes.
into that,
Yeah.
and then a little bit of Shadowrun. So I've got a
Okay.
little bit of mix uh, of where I am, but I really primarily I GM a group of six
Okay.
wonderful players,
Awesome.
and it's all done over Fantasy Ground. None of us live in the same city,
And that's more
so
common
it's
these days too. Definitely in
yeah, it
online
is.
gaming. Yeah.
And the neat thing about players today, and those of you listening, you don't have to feel like, okay, where do I find them in my city?
Right.
You can go online.
Yeah.
You don't have to put
Yeah.
up your video if you don't want to. You can just do audio
Yep.
and you can play together.
Yep. And even, I
And
mean,
it's
I think it would be a little more difficult to do, but I know there's people who do just by text chat, over Roll20 or things like that, if they're even not quite comfortable doing audio yet. So
we
there's
have
ways
a
to get
character.
into the game, even if you have, you're really shy or you're just really not ready to put yourself out there. There's still ways to get into the game, like there never has been before, which I think is fantastic as well.
We have a player. It's funny you bring that up that does that.
Oh, really?
And she joins us in, and she does. And I've got to keep an eye on my text screen, but she is greatness. She is positivity, funny, and she's so comfortable in the text.
Yeah.
She can be herself in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
Mm-hmm.
eh, a lot of times traumatic experiences in our lives cause us to feel maybe not so secure talking with people. We're worried
Mm-hmm.
about how do we sound, how do we look, will they accept me? And one of the things that she said, thank you so much for allowing me to use the medium I wanted. It's really made this special
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me as a
That's
GM.
awesome.
it made me think, you know what? We really do need to meet people, our players, where they feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
and help them to feel comfortable where they want to be. But in time, it may bring them to another level because we met them where they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it causes them to evolve to a place where maybe they're much more confident.
Absolutely.
And it was funny because she didn't want to share her address. I was sending her a Christmas present from me and
Okay.
Kim,
Oh, that's
my
awesome.
fiance. And she said, "Do you realize you're the first and only person I've ever given my address to?"
Wow.
And part of it was racial too, because she had a bad issue with people who were Caucasian.
Yeah.
And she said, "You were the first person in that side that made me feel hope that
Nice.
I'm not going to be picked on. I'm not going to be,
Yeah.
looked down on." And so that was a major thing.
Awesome.
And there's my fiance smiling at me at the door. I always love that big old grin over there. But,
Fantastic.
and it's
Yeah.
even helped Kim. I mean, Kim doesn't play. Kim's more of an introvert, but she's
Yeah.
become much more of an extrovert around the gamers. She'll crack jokes, she'll have fun. And I even see it affects the people in our lives in a
Absolutely.
good way. And it really opens them up to new experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
So there's obviously we talked about this explosion of D&D, right, where it's really grown
yeah.
in popularity. And another thing that seems to be growing in society, and just kind of bridging these together, I think maybe it's just we're better at diagnosing things now, but mental health is huge.
Yeah.
There's so much more awareness being paid to mental health and mental health struggles and issues. Diagnoses that people weren't able to get before, and I think a lot of that has to do with the health profession starting to take things a little bit more seriously and realizing
Mhm.
that mental health is health.
It is.
It's if you have a mental health disease or whatever you want to call it, it can have as much of an impact or sometimes more than something physical. And so they're
Yeah.
starting to pay more attention, right? It's yeah, this is a serious issue. People are waking up to it, and I've really noticed, and this is something that's been true in my own life. I've struggled
Hmm.
with mental health issues since I was a kid. I've had ADHD my whole life. I've dealt with
Hmm.
depression and anxiety through multiple time periods through my life, including now. And I've always been a nerd, and I've always played D&D since I was like 12 years old, and it's always been an escape for me. It's always been something where I feel calm, I feel drawn to the game, and I see that so much in the community where people seem to be drawn to the game. People that have stresses and anxiety and things going on in life, there's this draw towards D&D, and it's really interesting, and that's kind of what drew me to make this podcast or start talking about this, is because it
Sure.
seems fascinating. There's a connection. So I just want to ask, in your own life, is there stuff that you struggle with, or anything that you've gone through that you've been able to find find release in and find comfort? Because you said you've been playing for a long time,
Oh, yeah.
as
Since
well,
I
and
was
being drawn
about,
into it. So
gosh, 10 years old, which is 40 years
yeah,
I've been in this game.
yeah,
So a long time. And yeah, as a kid, it's kind of funny. I've gone from an introvert to an extrovert.
mm,
And part of it was the game. Not that I'm saying it will change everyone. It just, for me, it made me feel more comfortable in my own skin. And
hmm,
I struggled with being that guy that was the chameleon, who knew it all, was it all, did it all to make people like me.
yeah,
And then I got angry. I had a lot of
mm,
anger and depression issues when that didn't work out. So for me, I dealt with a mix of things. Now, again, my depression, I think sometimes people mislook at or misdiagnose depression. Depression doesn't mean I'm going to go out and shoot myself or cut
absolutely,
my wrists or anything like that.
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
It just means it's an anxiety that just engulfs you,
mm,
and it puts you into dark mindsets and places,
yeah.
negativity about yourself, and maybe negativity about what you can and can't do and your abilities.
And there's a
Um,
spectrum of it now that they're realizing
yeah,
more than before, where depression was very much kind of a singular diagnosis, but now they are starting to realize there is a huge spectrum, and your
yeah.
symptoms can look very different from person to person.
Well, and what it helped me to do too is like one of my best friends that came out of a game was a wide receiver in high school. He was
Nice.
black and a wide receiver, and we had a great hobby together. And then one of my friends was from Chicago, ex Black Panther,
Oh wow.
guy that if you looked at him, you'd think threatening. He's really not.
Yeah.
He's just a neat guy. Now, he still does dumb things sometimes because, again, you
Don't
grow
we
up on the
all?
street. Sometimes the street mindset's not always conducive socially, and you say
Yeah,
some
for sure.
things that in a different environment can throw you.
Hmm.
But the game just really brought us together, and it opened my mind to things. Like, for instance, growing up, I didn't realize one of the guys I played with was gay.
Hmm.
And I always kind of wondered, but he felt insecure about it because he got
Hmm.
picked on.
Yeah.
And he's come through so much, but the gaming helped him. It
Yeah.
really helped him to feel comfortable. He could play the type of characters that he felt comfortable with. And he knew I, as a DM, didn't get turned off if he wanted to play a certain sexuality or
Gotcha.
persuasion.
Yeah.
And, you know, before that, I was kind of narrow minded with it. And it
Hmm.
opened my mind to where now I'm totally accepting of the LGBT community and their happiness.
Hmm.
I want them to feel happy. I want them to feel included. I want them to feel like they can play whoever they want to play, whatever empowers them.
Hmm.
And it just does. I mean, they can play out there the kind of hero that they wish that people saw them
Yeah.
as. I did that. I could play the kind of characters that I wanted people to
Right.
see as, and
Right.
and
Yeah.
and feel comfortable doing that. And it was neat when I realized, okay, that's why people laugh at me playing gnomes, but I guess the gnome would encompass if you take away my height, it would encompass who I am. The
Gotcha.
mirthfulness, the playfulness, the
Yeah. Yeah.
sarcasm, that's me. And just the randomness at times and
Yeah.
the creativity, the mad scientist create.
That's
I'm
very
like,
much a gnome
God,
persona.
that's
Yeah.
me, you know? And so, I know people look at races different, but the great thing is you can be any race you want, any
Yeah.
alignment you want. If you want to play something different to reach out,
Hmm.
you can become whatever you want. And that's
Yeah.
the neat
Absolutely.
part.
Yeah. I found that for me as well. Growing up, I still am a huge introvert, and
Hmm.
it's funny because people like when I play D&D, I'm not,
Hmm.
and it's one of the one areas of my life where I'm not introverted at all. Whenever I'm playing D&D, I'm out there. But as a kid, I was a huge introvert, like to the point where I never wanted more than one or two people around me. I got really
Yeah.
claustrophobic around people. If people actually took an interest in me, then I was like, well, why? I kind of back off and you know,
Yeah.
um,
Suspicion. Yep.
but and I was shy, which is a separate, shyness and introversion are two different
Hmm.
things, which people always confuse. But I was a shy kid. I was kind of a loner, and when I discovered D&D, I remember the first couple of characters I played were these bold, brazen heroes. With like big booming
Hmm.
voices, and they were confident, and it was a way for me to explore what that felt like,
Hmm.
because that's not what I felt like. I didn't feel bold. I didn't feel confident, but I could pretend to be this confident character. And years later, now looking back, and I realize, wow, like that actually helped me in my own confidence. Just playing this character,
Hmm.
this made up character in this fantasy world where nothing means anything, but just
Yep.
going through the practice of playing this character out and trying to put myself in their shoes and think, okay, what does my character think in this situation? Not what do I think, because if
Yeah.
I'm picturing myself when I'm 12. I'm like, I'm not a hero. I'm a nobody. I'm not going to be
Hmm.
an adventurer hero out there, because that person's not going to be very interesting. But this guy that I created, well, he's interesting. He's
Hmm.
charismatic. He's got all these cool abilities, and so let me explore what that's like.
Yep.
And it had an impact on me in my own life, where I found a little bit of my own voice. I found a little bit more of ability to connect with people, even just through the game. The other players that I was playing with, um, I suddenly found my people. Right? Like these
Yeah.
people that I could start to be myself around, and not be judged. And it was
Yeah.
a really unusual experience. as a
See,
kid.
I love that about it. And, you know, it also let me view girls, women differently. Like
Mm.
one of the first players was one of my girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't make it, this ooey gooey type of thing.
Yeah,
She was
absolutely.
pretty kick butt. I mean, when she got into her roles, I'm like, gosh, look at who is this,
Yeah, yeah,
And it gave me a different respect for her, and
yeah.
I think it has. I mean, that's why when I get
That's
so
good.
down when I hear the negative stories, and I hope more GMs in the community really call out the negativity that
I
can
hope so.
sometimes
Yeah,
enter in the games,
definitely.
because it should be a place where anyone feels comfortable. I
Absolutely.
mean, I was out GMing at a con at ACon, which
Okay.
is one of the anime
Mm-hmm.
cons down in Dallas, and these two girls came up and they'd only played D&D, which was great. They wanted to try Pathfinder,
Nice.
and they asked me, "Can I take these iconic characters? Can I make them polyamorous?" I'm like, "Sure. I don't see why not."
Mm-hmm.
They were able to get more answers and go farther than a standard thinking player going A to B to C
Right.
by using some of those polyamorous things. And I allowed them
Gotcha.
to find
Yeah.
people who were similar,
Yeah.
and it gave them information and intel into how to solve the adventure that they would have
Mm-hmm.
never had the other way. They
Mm-hmm.
would have had to go the strict, okay, this says go A to B to C, because it was Pathfinder Society. And if you've ever played it,
Oh.
you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
different as a Pathfinder Society GM. I GM like I do in home games. I
Good.
don't, box somebody in. I want them to be creative and
Yeah.
outside the box.
Tear up the railroad
And it
tracks.
was, you could see they lit up. They almost didn't want to go. They had something they had to go
That's
to.
awesome.
And these were, probably teenage girls
Yeah.
playing with a bunch of guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was neat that they didn't feel weird. They didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
insecure. You could tell they were out of themselves. They were totally in control. And
That's
if I were to
fantastic.
just not so much judge, but just kind of people read a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm guessing both were more introverted,
Mm-hmm.
and but they were, like you said, extroverted in the game.
Yeah.
And so I like to
Yeah.
allow for the settings. Like right now, one of our characters has a relationship with one of the NPCs. Both of them
Nice.
are female.
Yeah.
Both have a love affection for each other. I'm totally cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes that player feel more excited about
Mm-hmm.
coming to the games and playing their character because their character can find love, not the really X-rated stuff, just PG,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
type of things. I love it. That
Mm-hmm.
to me is neat. And that player, and she's even gone more than I played with her in the past. She's even come more out of herself
Wow.
by that,
Yeah.
to where she's playful in the sessions. She's almost a trickster at times with her half orc.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a side of her I'm seeing that I'm going, okay, this is a side I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
This is neat. I love it.
So maybe that speaks to some of this draw then that um like speaking for myself, somebody who's dealt with insecurities and anxiety and the like, and being able to find release and find some sort of coping mechanism in a positive way through the game. Um, what do you think it is? Like, what are the elements about the game? What is it that draws people from the worlds who aren't confident, who aren't um, they don't feel like they have it all together. And I mean, none of us do, but some people feel like
Right.
they do. I think they're kidding themselves,
Sure.
but you don't understand what like. There's I don't want to stereotype and say that there's a type of player that plays, because there's not. Like we just said, anybody can
No,
play the
there's
game.
so
It's open and
many.
one. But there does seem to be a draw for those who, like myself and like others I've encountered and had a conversation with, that have struggled with things through life that are drawn, and more than just a casual interest. Like I mean, are drawn
Sure.
to the game, like become immersed in it.
Absolutely.
It becomes this medicine, like you said, right? This positive drug in a way.
Yeah.
What are the elements? What is it about the game that draws
It's
people to it?
empowering. I think number one, it's empowering. You control your destiny.
Mm.
A great GM, now again, and I say this, a great GM allows their players to do their backgrounds, have their goals, dreams, and let them achieve their destiny.
Yeah.
And we can't always get that in life. Life sometimes has some obstacles that we feel overwhelmed with. Now, again, the game teaches us later on, I think, that we can overcome these
Mhm.
obstacles.
Mhm.
But in the time and in our mind, we don't see that. We only see the negative, the cliff staring at us right ahead of
Yeah.
us. With the game takes that magical leap of faith like Indiana Jones, where that bridge is
Yeah.
across to the
Yeah.
grail. And you just have to take that
It's a
first
great
step.
scene. Yeah.
And when they do, it's empowering.
Mhm.
It allows, anybody of any background to
Mhm.
feel like I am powerful here. I can
Mhm.
do things that I cannot in other places. I can
Yeah.
be what I am and be a
Absolutely.
hero or a villain, an anti hero, but I can be
If you
whatever
want
I
to be,
want
yeah.
to be.
Right.
And I don't have to feel judged. I don't have to feel looked down on. These fellow players laugh with me. They make me
Mhm.
feel like I'm a part of a real society quest here, and it's just neat. I think that's
Mhm.
the one thing. And it allows them to associate with people that maybe they would have never associated with
Yeah.
outside the game and
Definitely.
not feel like they're looking down on them or they're
Definitely.
judging them. They feel like I'm sitting here with this player, like Joe and Vin and all these
Right.
neat
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and they see me as me. The best. You remember Did you see the Big Bang Theory episode
Oh yeah.
where they were sneaking off to be with Joe and who was it, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Yeah,
and
it
they
was
had that.
Will Wheaton was running his secret celebrity D&D
Yes,
games and had like
that
William
was
Shatner there
so.
and those guys. Yeah.
Wasn't that awesome?
I
All
thought
of
it was
them went
hilarious.
there, and
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
I'm here with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm here
Yeah.
with Bill Shatner. I'm here with,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you can be in these kind of games. You can
Right.
play,
That's true.
and you don't know who you're going to be with. You might be with one of the creators of the game.
Oh, yeah,
You
absolutely.
may be with celebrity or a cosplayer
Mhm.
or whoever, and you come away and you've made a friend.
Absolutely.
You made a
Yeah.
friend in another group that you would have never made that friendship with.
And that's empowering. Definitely, like just
It
the
is.
idea of power, right? To be able to bridge those those social barriers
Yes.
that exist. And I don't I don't necessarily see every social barrier as negative. Some they're just they exist, right? Because of
Right.
your job or where you live or the type of interests or hobbies you have kind of outside of the game. There's certain people that yeah, you're likely never going to connect with or talk to in
Right.
any other setting, right? And that's just reality. But you know, we I'm one of the DMs at this restaurant called Roundtable in Waterloo, and we run an open D&D night the last
Mm-hmm.
Sunday of every month. We just did one this past Sunday, and one of the cool things is exactly that, where the people that are there are from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we've got kids, we've got adults, we've got teenagers, we've got people from men, women, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like everybody comes, and outside of this setting, even sitting there as a DM and kind of looking around the room, and I'm like, some of these people I could see myself being friends with in other contexts, and other people I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
we probably wouldn't have much in common outside of the game, and that's okay. But suddenly we're sitting down at this table and we're all friends. We're sitting down at this
Yeah.
table and we're able to connect to the game. We're able to share something together and break out of our shell and have this bonding. And
Yeah.
it's this idea of acceptance where suddenly you can be who you want, you can play this character, we can all have fun together, play a game, and we're all we're nobody's judging anybody else. We're just having a
No,
good time playing together, and there's something incredibly freeing about that. It's
it
fantastic.
is. Well, you think about some of the people I have on Twitter. There's no way I would have met these people. There's
Right,
no way
absolutely, yeah,
I'd have made these friends.
yeah.
I've got friends in England. I've got friends in Ireland. I've got friends in
Mm-hmm.
Germany and Denmark and Sweden. And it's amazing. And, you know, it also allows me to be a friend with them. Like, I had one of them approach me that was doing a GM tips, and
Mm-hmm.
that person does suffer from low self esteem. I don't know why. I mean, the person I gotten to know, there's no reason that should be there. The
Yeah.
person is a wonderful person, And I've told that person that many
Yeah,
times.
yeah,
And yet we've developed this friendship, and now this person can come to me and open up and share when
that's
they're
great.
doing badly or they're having a
Yeah,
bad day.
yeah,
And they know they're going to get positive reinforcement. I'm not going to gun them down and look down on them.
yeah,
And the game does that. It opens you up to get to know these people and know they're my friends. They're not going to be against me. They're going to be with me when I need them because
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
we're with each other in the game. We fight for each other. We sometimes give each other a little hard time, but as
yeah,
characters,
yeah.
but we're bonded. We're there. They will go to bat for me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing I've learned most is our community, and I've said it many times, our community transcends religion,
Yeah,
sexuality, preferences, stigmas. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not. Like any other community, it has its flaws and its warts. And,
still got some
and
a-holes out there that are
yeah.
trying to
And
bring
I
it
think
down,
even
but
those people sometimes, they're wounded souls too. They
yeah,
just take their aggression out on other people. And
right.
it's sad because I've confronted one or two a few times. I said, it's sad that you allow your demons to push you away from a group that would love you, accept you, and be there for
Yeah,
you. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for them to hear, but it's the thing they need to hear is that, yeah, we do have this great community that we don't look down at each other. We don't look down if a person makes $10 an hour, if a person makes $200 an hour.
right.
We
Yeah.
don't look down if this person's a Christian, if this person's a Muslim, this person's an atheist, this person's an
Mm-hmm.
agnostic. We're not worried about that. We
Yeah,
don't
we're
look,
all on level footing
yeah,
when we come to the table, right? It's
it
the playing
is.
field is leveled in many ways, I think.
And I
Yeah.
hope the community realizes that as time goes on and does more, because
Mm-hmm.
I think we could do more for each other. I mean, look at the articles. You were talking about articles, of this helping. There's been so many articles written by psychologists that
Yeah.
say gaming is a positive force for
Mm-hmm.
people with disabilities, for people with challenges, for people with
Yeah.
emotional needs and emotional challenges. And it's such a positive force.
Yeah.
Where else do you see that? You don't
That's
see
true.
any other communities
That's
doing that.
true. Yeah.
And for me, I just have to say, sit back and look at these things and see what we have here. We have
Mm-hmm.
a really great community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the things I love most. Is what draws me to gaming now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely. I mean,
did I lose you? Did you freeze up? I always love the challenges we go over the internet.
yeah.
I
Um,
think I froze on you.
yeah.
Are you there?
I'm
There
here.
you
Yeah.
go.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just every once in a while, I think it's the bandwidth on the dang internet. But what
Oh,
do you
maybe.
do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, sorry for the fan in the background. We're kind of circulating some
Oh,
air through the house. So
it looks like I lost your camera actually.
did you? Okay, I'll come back. Hang on. Let me do this and then come back. There we go.
I can edit this part out after, anyways. It's fine.
Yeah.
We're not pros here. It's all
Hopefully
okay.
you see me now.
No, I don't have you.
All right. Let me do the camera one more time. Let's see. Screen share. No, I don't want screen share. Just want to turn it off for a second and then turn it back on.
Hey, there
You
you
got me? Hi, I'm back again. So yeah, I just for me, I can't say enough good things about what gaming does. D&D in general. I mean, whether it's Gamma World, Pathfinder, whatever,
are. Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And even look at the art. We've gone from a guy like Franzetta, who, don't get me wrong, I think Franzetta is an amazing artist, but we don't always draw the female characters like we
No.
should.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of a lot of
You
exaggeration
know,
and few clothes.
yeah.
And a lot of the old
Well, and
fantasy
then you got
artwork, you
look at
know.
well, but look at the artists now for D&D, and look at the artists for Pathfinder.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They've come so far, and the artwork's incredible,
Mm-hmm.
and it embodies the personality of the character as
Yeah.
well. You can see we've gone from just armor to how things would look historically, but also just, are they devious looking? Are they
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
strong, fierce? And it embodies it. And
Well,
so now players can grab this art. That's why I love sharing it. They can
yeah,
grab this art and
absolutely.
run with it.
Well, somebody was pointing out that in the fifth edition player's handbook, for example, you open it up and the first picture that you come to is this hero that's a person of color, and
Yeah,
that's the very first image in there. And you go back to 5-10 years ago even,
yeah,
and a majority of the artwork, it was still that very stereotypical. The guys are all these like white guys with flowing blonde locks and like the Conan
yeah,
types, and the girls were all wearing this like skimpy outfits that wouldn't are about as effective as a bikini for armor, was really what they are. and
yeah.
and yeah, you're seeing a lot more. I don't want to use the word realism, but just more understanding of diversity, and that not every
Yes.
person looks like that, and not every hero or fantasy character has to look like that either. That there's, especially in a world where there are different races, there's it's a world of magic, it's a world
Absolutely.
of imagination, that you can have absolutely anything. So why do we have to have this narrow view of what a hero looks like? And so you
It's
have
why you
people coming
see,
to the game now where they see this, yeah, like you say, they see this art and they go, "Oh, I relate to that.
yeah.
This art speaks to me as who I am, right? I can
One of
find
the,
art, I can find an idea for a character that speaks to me, whoever I am."
yeah,
And
and one of
you've
the
instantly
things
got a
that,
connection to the game there, right? Before you even created a character, before you even dived into something, you
yeah,
just immediately you're like, I relate to this. This speaks to me. I feel like I can be a part of this, which I think is fantastic. You know.
well, and one of the things I love, if you go to the Occult Adventures book, specifically out of Pathfinder, the occultist is an older guy who's overweight. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I said, thank you.
Why would you
The
like that?
occultist is not going to have muscles. He's a wizard almost of
Yeah.
mental magic or
Yeah.
occult magic.
Yeah.
He's not going to be this lean, mean, muscular machine.
Yeah.
And I love that they're doing that. They're doing more curvaceous body types that are
Mm.
for the larger sizes. And that's good too, because we as players, a good majority are a mix of people. I mean,
Yeah.
some are thin, some are muscled, some are not, some
Yep.
are overweight,
Yep.
and that's great because now you don't feel like, okay, I got this muscled hero. I'm not in that vibe.
Yeah.
Or this rogue, that this rogue is this tone muscle. No, the rogue may
Mm.
not be. They
Mm-hmm.
can be disheveled. They could be. I love that one of the gods embraced the Hellraiser kind of thing, where they do body piercings and
Yeah.
the self mutilation. And again, it's not that I'm encouraging it, but for those that are into the genre of body piercings, it gives them somebody they can go,
Sure.
all
Yeah.
right, there you go. I could totally relate to that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're catching up with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, going back to the mental end of it, the image we have and we play of our character is the image of empowerment for us,
Mm.
or it can de-empower us and take away
True.
the power.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and so many women I know voiced out, God, does every one of my? I mean, some women are okay with it, and that's fine, but not every woman wants to be this bikini model. Okay, they just want a character they can relate to
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
embodies it. And I'm so glad
Yeah.
so many artists are now doing that. And I'm so much glad that now we're seeing um, all the different races of man represent.
Mm.
So much more black art. You see much more Latin art. You see much more Asian art, and I
Mm.
love that.
Mm-hmm.
Native American. I love that. One continent of one world is Native American. I
Yeah.
love that Midgard has the Southlands
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
has the African and as well as the Middle Eastern
Mm-hmm.
flavors because it's so cool.
Well,
I mean, I played,
and you're getting away from the stereotypical views of different
yeah,
ethnicities that existed in the past, right? Where you look to a lot of, and I mean a lot of it to be fair, it comes down to just ignorance of the past, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
what they knew, that's what they understood. But when you see Kickstarters for like Afropunk sci-fi settings that are
Yeah, I
like
love
that
that.
are full on like high tech, kind of like Black Panther, right? Like Wakanda type of idea, where it's like
Yes.
super high tech African nation, and it
Love it.
blows apart the stereotype of like, oh, Africa, they're stupid, and they're
Yeah.
third world, they're poor, they don't, they're dumber or whatever, and that kind of stereotype of a lot of cultures existed for a long time, and
Oh
what you
yeah.
see more now in the art and more in gaming now is a breakdown of that, where a person's ethnicity or their culture doesn't equate with our historical views of that ethnicity in our world,
Yeah.
right? There's
And what's fun?
representation without the idea like, oh well, this is an exact replica of what how we've seen them in this world. It's not. It's just giving them a place to. It's giving everybody a place to have a voice, have a say, have a
Exactly.
character, explore whatever they want to be,
Yeah.
and it be on equal footing, which is like it's fantastic, and
Well, and the sad
it's
thing too
welcomed.
is we don't learn the world history. Like Babylon was at its height at 4500 BC. They
Mm-hmm.
had water gardens. They had
Mm-hmm.
technology that honestly transcended mine. China, ancient China was just so far ahead,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And if you go into Africa, Sheba, the Queen of Sheba, does not get enough praise. She rose Africa to prominence. It was
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
powerful, powerful combination of
Yeah.
nations. And so, and the Ottoman Empire, you look at the Turkish
Yeah.
Empire, it
Oh
was,
yeah.
eh, again, we don't realize because we get fed just the area of the world we're in, and we forget
Especially North America.
people were brilliant all over and rose to golden histories. And it
Yeah.
was, the fun part is it's back in what we would consider the fantasy times.
True. Like
So,
medieval and prior, or yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at ancient Egypt. The fact that they built the things they
Yeah.
built
No kidding,
is unbelievable. And yet we
eh?
don't share that. And that's what I love sharing in the game. If you see a lot of my games, I love exploring all over the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Egypt. I want to go to the jungles and the tribes and let them see the power in those tribes. These were
Mm.
not weak tribes, they were powerful.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so I so look forward to running those places in the world that people don't normally do. I
That's
don't want
awesome.
mine to be just uh, an Anglo Caucasian looking world.
No, definitely.
I want
Yes.
all the races
Mm-hmm.
and things coming in so you empower everyone.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they feel like, yes, I can play anything
Yeah.
and feel powerful.
Well, I just
And
sorry.
go ahead, that's all right.
I just in our one of my online games that I do, um,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of a moment of honesty. It shouldn't have surprised me, but it did, but in a pleasant way. Where my one player was creating this half orc, barbarian, and he's Caucasian like myself, white dude, to be
Right.
blunt, and he's creating this character, and he's like, yeah, when he's describing it to me, so he's this big black guy with like orc tusk
Awesome.
and stuff like that, and it was the moment. It wasn't a surprise like, oh, why would you do that? It was like, that's awesome
Yep.
that we don't think, again, the Conan type,
Yeah.
and so
No.
and without getting into the issues of like, oh well, we don't want to use different cultures and appropriate them, whatever, but just the freedom and what I've seen
Yes.
happening so much more now, that people are comfortable to just play the world and choose different characters and kind of be whoever they want to be.
Yeah.
So wherever you're from, you can look at something else and say, "Oh, why would I play that?" Instead, you go, "Ooh, I'm interested in playing that. I'm
Yep.
interested in exploring that. What would that be like to be this person from this place and have this
Yep.
background?" And it opens our mind, it opens our eyes. We take it from the fantasy world, and we're kind of, our eyes are open there. And I think it
Yep.
definitely has an impact when we then look at our world and we say, "Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe I have something to learn from that culture." Maybe there's
Absolutely.
something interesting there that I can actually learn from, as opposed to seeing it as, ooh, different and weird.
Yep.
And I think fantasy
It's
definitely does that. It opens us our eyes to that and say, that's
It
actually
knocks
kind of
down
cool.
stereotypes,
Yeah,
which is one of the things for mental health. That's one of
definitely.
the
Yeah,
hardest.
yeah,
Stereotype can lead to depression, anxiety, other things. It
for
can
sure.
actually
Yeah.
be the triggering of all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And now you feel like in the game, stereotype is erased.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it what you want. And so I love to represent all these nations as powers. They are powers.
Mm-hmm.
They are strong. They're not these weak, easily conquered nations.
Yeah.
They are fierce.
Yeah.
And so characters can be from anywhere and be fierce and strong and
Absolutely.
heroic. And it knocks away any stereotypes that this world creates.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you come back into this world and you start knocking away the stereotypes you have
Yeah.
against you and against others
Yeah.
because you're
Absolutely. Yeah.
able to be what you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think we only have room to grow. I think we're
Yeah.
we're on an amazing path. Like you see now again the positivity in the community. The interactions that I've had with people on Twitter. Um, I've never wanted to join Twitter for personal reasons before.
Now,
I saw it as this cesspot of just
yeah.
negativity and vile interactions, which I had no interest in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started um, kind of breaking out a little bit with my own D&D stuff, right? Trying to create a few things. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the DM's Guild. I want to create something for that. And so that's kind of what drew me to Twitter. I'm like, well, maybe I can find some
Yeah.
people here I can connect with. And almost from day one, just reading through feeds and the people that I was finding in here, I was like, I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
It's so different. I mean, again, you get the odd person here and there, but for the most part,
Sure.
the interactions in the community just they never cease to blow my mind. That people from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, from all over the world, we're coming together over this game,
Yeah.
and we're having amazing conversations and building into each other's lives. And you see somebody comes to Twitter with an issue, they're having a bad day, and the amount of people that are just there to cheer them up. That
Yeah.
you only know them through Twitter, right? Like you don't know these people
Exactly.
face to face in their lives, but you're still able to come together for people and say, hey, we got your back. Hey, we're here for you.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I remember hearing people outlashing against this idea of D&D community. One of them being, well, the now infamous, I'd say, RPG pundit.
Yeah.
And him talking about this whole idea about like it's not a community, and hating this word, this idea that it's you're not a gamer, you're not part of the community if you don't actually play the game. And I love how quickly that was shot down by the majority of the
Yes.
community
Me
jumping
too.
on that and being like, what's your problem? And just the idea that this is more than a game,
It is.
and the uniqueness of it, that take any other game or hobby other than sports brings people together in unique ways, but
Sure.
you know you, you don't find this kind of community of Monopoly players
No.
to the same extent. you know
Card players,
Nothing
everything
against
else.
people who
No.
want to play Monopoly. I mean, I personally
Sure.
can't stand the game, but there's something about D&D, right? There's something about RPGs,
Yeah.
about tabletop RPGs that just inherently draws us together,
It
and
does.
and less in our strengths. I think it's more that we can come with our weaknesses and say, hey, you know what? I'm flawed. I'm this person. I'm
Yeah.
struggling with this stuff, but can we play a game together? And everybody else is like, absolutely. You know what?
Sure.
I'm flawed too. Here's my issues, but let's play a game, and
Yeah.
let's together maybe we can help each other. And
It
it's so
is.
unique. It's amazing.
It is, and hopefully we continue to grow it and see it,
Absolutely, yeah. I hope
because,
so.
like I say, you want to overcome all these different things that are the challenges in life. This game helps you to do it, one little piece at a time, but it does it. And at the end of the day, you walk away smiling, and that's the big thing. If you walk away from the game feeling a little better about yourself,
Definitely, yeah.
then it's well worth the time spent.
Hmm.
And that's for me as a GM. I love seeing people smile and
Yes,
talk about it afterwards.
yes.
So, I go to the Discord feed and see all these players
Yeah.
talking about the session, and I'm going,
Yes,
perfect.
that's
That's what I
amazing.
want to
Yeah,
create.
that's the best part. Yeah.
It is. And that's the neat thing. And to the young GMs and DMs, I would say, don't sell yourself short. Okay. You may feel a little insecure coming in,
Hmm.
but it will help you too, not just as a player, but it will help expand your horizon.
Mm-hmm.
even to a greater depth
Yeah,
when you
definitely.
run a few games. You realize
Yeah.
how important making those players feel comfortable, welcome, accepted,
Yeah.
and it starts knocking down all the fears you have. And they're there at first, and we all have
Mm-hmm.
them, the jitters, the oh god, am I going to destroy the game, will they never want to play again type of
Every
things.
DM, I still get that.
Oh yeah.
Every session, I'm still
Oh
like, oh man, I hope I don't like ruin this for everybody.
yep. But then you walk away from the session smiling and you go, this
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did this. And so
Definitely.
I hope, because the game's run with a GM at the end of the day,
Mm.
there's got to be a GM in there. And it can be anyone.
It
You
really
don't
can
have
be.
to be. Yeah. You don't have to be this great orator. Just
Yep.
hop in and do your best,
Yep.
and it'll make you feel better.
As long as you empower your players, you're doing it right. You're
Yes.
doing it right. If
Yes.
they're having fun and if they have the power to tell their story,
Yeah.
you can tell your story. Sure, craft a story,
Of
but if
course.
your
Of
players can tell
course.
their story, there you go. Then you're doing something right because you're bringing people together. Um,
All you're doing as a GM is you start the story like in the beginning, and then you let the players take off. Because think about every comic book, every book that you've read.
mm,
The main characters take over,
mhm,
and then the narrator provides the surroundings, the color, the people, the societies, the
mhm.
challenges,
And you tie
and
pieces together here and there.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's really what you're doing at the end of the day. And when you figure that out, it's like it doesn't matter how it'll end. It just
Mhm.
matters that it's a great journey through. And
Mhm.
however it ends, it ends. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I've come to love about the second season of Critical Role, especially
Yeah.
for I know not everybody's a critter, but I'm a huge critter,
Oh, I love it. It's a
and
great
this
group.
this second season, the second campaign, um, just being able to see the various story arcs of each individual character
Yeah.
that they've been able to explore, right? Where they've gone through Ford's background quite a bit. They've explored Caleb's a little bit. Right now, they're going through Knott's, and you see these
Yep.
characters where they're not just along for the ride, so
Yeah.
to speak, but they are the point of the story, right? It's
Yeah.
centered on them that and Matt does a great job of that of like um, enveloping the story around the characters and making it mean something and make it
Yeah.
important to them. And I love being able to see that each person at that table, they get an opportunity to have their character the focus for be it
Smart,
a
smart
session,
thing.
be it 10 sessions, be whatever. They get spotlight. Yeah, they get to matter and mean something.
Yeah.
And for me, that's I've learned from that in my own campaigns and said, okay, how can I do that for my players more? How can I make it less about the story that I want to tell and
Yeah.
be a better listener and say, okay, am I hearing my players? Am I hearing them as their characters as they express their backgrounds and say, well, this is what I happened, this is my journey, and how can I take that now and say,
Yep.
ooh, how can I fit that into this story that we're all weaving together and make them feel important. And I only hope that I'm doing better now at it, and I always hope that I improve at it. But it's amazing that each person gets to have a voice at a good
Yep.
table, right? If you're at a good table, that I think that's the other part of it is that no
Yep.
person's voice is insignificant.
No.
Every person's
Everybody's
voice
important.
matters.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Well, and think
definitely
about how
interesting to
it
see.
empowers you.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a DM or a GM, however you want to refer to yourself, it's good either way. Um, you come away stronger. It helps you
Yeah.
that I matter as a DM. I matter as a GM. I matter in what I do for this game and empowering these characters.
Yeah.
And I now become the vehicle that allows them to drive wherever they want,
Yeah.
whichever direction they go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they get to write their story, and their story will be remembered. And one thing that I was kind of taught that I don't do enough is write them into the world story.
Yeah.
Let them be a part. a
Mm-hmm.
major part of that story that
Mm.
is read by the next generation. So the next campaign session you do, refer back to the other characters. That's one thing Matt does, which
Yeah.
I really appreciate. Those characters' names and things were not lost. They
Yeah.
were a major part of that society.
Exactly. They had an impact on the world that lasted.
Yes.
Yeah.
and and I love when the characters will bring up and go, you know what, you guys will learn about this character. I had one of my characters do it the other day. He goes, it'd be great if he showed up right here and did this for us. And I started laughing. I said, yes, he's a major part of the history. I said he got
That's
rid of the
awesome.
whispering tyrant. He sent him off into Never Never Land,
Yeah.
and and he made a major what was it? Uh, what was the old Asian bad guy? It was Dr. Lowe. He had his Dr. Lowe that he
Oh
defeated,
yeah.
and that was remembered
That's
because
awesome.
of the food poisoning of Dr. Lowe.
Yeah.
I love when the characters remember those things. That's the history of that world, and it's the same world whether it's this campaign or this campaign. It's the same world,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
That's neat.
that's cool. I mean, now your characters who maybe have a lower self-esteem go, wow, I'm remembered. I'm a hero. I'm written in this history.
Yeah, and the impact that that has again on mental health and just the
Yeah.
coping with I think for me like so my big thing drawing a little bit personal here for a
Mm-hmm.
second is I have huge anxiety and it's something that I struggle with a lot, and there's always that I lay awake at night sometimes for hours, um, and there's a sense of calm that comes from the game. There's a sense of accomplishment that comes from the game,
Yeah.
and you know it's it's something that can transfer over into my real life, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
the high that comes from a good D&D session, I can ride that
Mm-hmm.
high sometimes for like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just thinking about then going back to it and just being like, oh, like that was so amazing, and thinking about the time we had at the table, and just where the story can go from there, and I just get caught up in that, and it's like a natural serotonin boost for me, right? Like it just brings me up,
Mm-hmm.
and balances me in a way that can be lacking, and sometimes can struggle with. So just that idea of significance, and even as a DM, like I'm not the players, right? I'm not crafting the player stories, but even the significance of an NPC, or when I see the players, when I see them having significant moments, and I'm kind of living
Yeah.
vicariously through their accomplishments, right? I'm definitely the kind of DM where I want my players to succeed. I'm a
Me
yes
too.
DM. Like I yeah. I mean, I want my villains to like kick their butts too, but at the same
Oh, you
time,
got
like
to give them a good challenge. Yeah.
when they come together and when they accomplish something, and then when they're riding high after the session, for me, I'm just like, yes, that's my high. When I see that,
Yep.
and it carries over, it feeds into my life. It helps me deal with the stress and the anxiety of every day, because I know that something significant happened. Even though it's just a game,
Yep.
something significant happened that mattered to everybody, and we can all share in that significance, and we can share in the moment of something actually having an impact and mattering. And there's something
It's
magical about
amazing.
that. It's magical. There's
It
real
is.
magic in D&D, right, that comes out of this, and affects
Oh
us in
yeah.
our real lives. There's definitely something magical about that, which is neat to
We
see.
had uh, we had one of our NPCs, and it was I use the critical and the fumble decks, so there can be some
Yes.
serious consequences when that happens. Well, one of the NPCs who they'd gotten very close to, he was beheaded in
Oh
front of them.
wow.
The guy and the card said, "Roll the roll," and I rolled a
Yeah.
two, and
Oh wow.
his head got cut off right in front of him, and it just sent him into another level. They went nuts. They're
Yeah.
like, "You killed Yosef. How did you kill Yosef? You can't do that. He's our friend." And so they went nuts, and they literally
Yeah.
took down the enemies, and they took his body back. They said, "We can't bury him here. We're going to take him back to Talmander's Bounty, where we are from, and we're going to bury him properly there."
Mm-hmm.
And you've succeeded as a GM
Mm-hmm.
when they're that endeared. to an
There's
NPC
that emotional
that,
connection that's built. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally like they killed my best friend.
Yeah.
How can we deal with this? And it helps you to cope with in real life those situations,
Definitely.
those sad situations where you're feeling all these emotions. And you know, hey, if one or two of them cried, I would be okay with that. That's,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's like, wow, I've reached their heart so much. And look at Critical Role, it was like that. I mean, look at Pike almost became an NPC for a while.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
her plight was literally on everybody's worry list. I mean,
Yeah.
when is Pike going to come back? Is she going to be okay?
Yeah.
You know, I just love when the people get endeared to those NPCs.
Oh yeah. When you
And it's
see,
created by the characters, not
yeah,
by the GM. It's created by the characters.
totally. I mean, you see, even especially in yeah, going back to the Kirk Role, like their first campaign,
Hmm.
the emotional investment of the players,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Where, um, I think it's funny. There's still people who are like, oh, it's acted, it's scripted, and Matt was like, thanks for the compliment,
yeah,
but seeing
somewhat. Yeah, I mean, if it was, it's great acting.
right, but seeing the raw emotional connection that they
Yeah,
built with their characters and spoilers when when Vax died,
yeah, I
and at
remember that.
the close of that campaign, like they were all like everybody at the table was in tears, and those are real tears. There's a
Yeah,
huge investment there where the story had drawn them together in a way that
yes,
actually had a significant impact. And you hear them talk about it in Talks Machina and kind of on in panels and stuff about them coping with that for sometimes days afterwards, where it actually has had an emotional impact on them outside of the game, where they're left, oh, I got to deal with this, I got to work through that,
yeah,
and so yeah, you're right, it forces us in a way to have to deal with emotions in kind of a safe
yeah,
way, because
yeah,
we can experience grief, we can experience joy, we can experience
yes,
even anger, at things that happen in the game, and we can
yeah,
deal with them in a way that's safe, because in the end it is a game.
yeah,
It's not the real world that's being affected in these different ways.
yeah,
um, but if we can learn how to deal with emotion, raw emotion,
yeah,
in a fantasy setting, in a setting that is controlled
yes,
to a certain extent, um, yeah, it can help us deal with that when something comes in real life, and we go, you know what, I know what
yeah,
grief feels like. I know what this feels like. I've done this before. How did I do that then? Oh right, yeah. And I had people around me, and it draws us back to something as a
I
focal
think
point
you
where we can say,
think you froze again. Dang
did we?
it.
I think it's been happening. I might just go with the
I
audio on
love it.
this.
We're good except for our medium some days.
It's true. We're not pros by any stretch of the imagination here, but let's uh, let's go here. Let's see. Am I frozen on your end, or am I visible here? Am I moving?
There you are. It'll happen sometimes. That's part of recording a show, right?
You're frozen here, but that's okay.
All right, we'll get you. Hang on here. I'll do it twice. That way we'll get you back. Here.
All right. um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's
so it's
okay. That's the fun part about recording it. You can always cut it
absolutely,
out later.
it's but yeah, that raw connection,
Yeah,
that raw emotion that you experience through a game, and translates into life, I think is something that is unique to this type of
and
game. Um,
and let's be
and
honest, the emotional highs and lows, they don't pick their timing.
no,
They come as they come. I mean,
yeah,
unfortunately, I had to cope with the fact of losing two parents in 1 year, and
mm,
that's not an easy thing to do. But if
absolutely,
you
yeah,
have those things in your life that you can find strength from, positivity, like gaming, other places, that it helps you to cope. It's the best way I can
definitely.
say, because you never get over. I love when people say, "When are you going to get over this?" Yeah, grief is not something you get over,
You
nor
get
is,
through it, but you don't get over
yes,
it.
exactly. And
Yeah,
it's the same way with things like depression. I mean,
definitely.
unfortunately, I haven't had to battle it in the past 5, 6 years. It's been very depression free,
Yeah, it's good.
but it can come. A
Mm-hmm.
big event can come, and it can spin
Mm-hmm.
you right back in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing where if you have those positive places you can go to, those positive spaces, like gaming, where yes, okay, it's an escape, but it's a good escape. It's a
Yeah.
positive escape.
Yeah.
Then it helps you to get back some strength, some uh, healing to go
Mm-hmm.
out and then face it. Like you say, it gives you the ride through for several days to get you going,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think the real heroes for me in the mental health community are those who keep getting up and fighting. I
Yeah.
mean, look at look at guys like and sadly like Chester Bennington and God, I could go through a litany of artists who just gave up.
Yeah.
And again, I don't look down on them. It's a battle. It is a
Oh,
literal battle
definitely.
every day.
Yeah.
And I still see him as a hero. He fought till he couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sad that he chose to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes him no less in my mind of a human being and no less of a hero.
Mm-hmm.
He still was a hero for all the years he fought the demons that he
Mm-hmm.
fought. And just know people that are gamers, this is your arena to recharge. It's like the
Definitely.
video games, and you got to recharge, recharge the weapons, recharge you,
Yeah.
recharge the
Exactly.
stamina, the hit points. That's what this game does,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
utilize it for that. It's okay to. There's nothing wrong with letting it become your stamina regenerator or
Absolutely.
your health regenerator. Let it do
Yeah.
it.
Well, and that's you know where I got the idea for this name, Slayer Dragons, is exact from that
There,
idea, right? That
I love it. I
we're in
love it.
this game slaying dragons,
Yes,
and in the end, it helps us slay our dragons in real life, right? And
yes.
the dragons of our world are not these big scaled, you know, flying fire breathing reptiles,
Thank
but
God, most days.
no kidding, eh? Like we need that to deal with, but
uh,
we our dragons are depression,
yeah,
anxiety, you
yeah,
know, suicidal thoughts,
yeah. Self-esteem.
insecurities, you know, all these
Yeah,
things that we go through. For many people, these are dragons in that they seem
yes, they
undefeatable.
are.
They seem like
Yeah.
these superimposing monsters in our lives that we can't beat. That you know we feel like we need to run from.
Well,
And
yeah,
there's ways to learn how to fight them, how to fight back and say,
yes.
you know what, no, I'm gonna slay you, not the other way
That's
around.
right. That's
And
right.
I think learning how to slay dragons in a fantasy world can definitely help us slay dragons in real life. So
Absolutely. It
yeah,
teaches us how to become courageous. It teaches us how to become resourceful. It
yeah,
teaches us that we
definitely.
don't battle dragons alone. I think that's the number one thing I learned in the gaming world.
Yes.
You don't face dragons alone. You go in with a party that is equipped to deal with them.
Yeah,
It's the same in real
exactly.
life. You got your
Yeah,
party of people around you that you gather around you. Let them help you with the dragons in
absolutely.
your life. I
And each
mean,
person brings a different strength. Like that's the cool thing
yes,
about roles, right? That everybody has a different strength that they're bringing to the
that's
party,
right.
and they're all necessary for
Yeah,
victory.
they are. Without
So
them, if you take any of them away, then you weaken yourself.
yeah,
And that's what you don't want to do.
yeah,
Never go against a dragon alone. I mean, gosh, I play Assassin's Creed. And let me tell you, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is an interesting one. And it's tough battling those people alone. I get my butt
yeah,
kicked more times than not.
yeah.
So fortunately, you get a party that you get to draw on in gaming. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I got a fighter, I got a rogue, I got a ranger, I've got a cleric. I
Mm-hmm.
can do this.
And you learn to have to rely on the talents and strengths of the other people around the table,
Yes.
and you know the characters they've created, and you know you find yourself in a situation where your character might be like, you know what, I don't have the tools to solve this,
Yeah.
but she does.
Yep.
So I'm gonna let her take over. This is gonna be her moment to shine. She's got the skill set to get through the situation to you know whereas in the other situation maybe I'm the one who's got it, or maybe in this situation they're the one who has it. It's
Yeah.
you have to rely on other people.
and it'll
it's not a
teach.
solo game. It's
No,
not. You have to rely if you want to succeed, if you want to survive, if you want to, your character to last more than one session. You are intrinsically relying on other people. And there's a vulnerability attached to that where you have to say,
yes,
yes, you know what, I'm going to allow this person to step in and do what they do best so that I
yeah,
can do what I do best and we can actually succeed together. And when you take that model and you apply it to real life, and it
yeah,
becomes so significant when you realize, you know what, yeah, like on my own, I don't have the strength to fight against a
yeah,
lot of the things that come in my life. But if I can learn to rely on other people, and for me, one of the hardest things in my life was learning to let people in.
yeah. It's a
I
hard
built
thing.
up these huge walls where I said, no, you can't fight my battles, or I don't want to trust you. And that came through, being let down and being hurt by people and just different
Yeah,
situations. But being forced into vulnerability in a sense and saying, I need to let you in because you have an ability that I don't, and I need to rely on you. And
yeah.
gaming teaches us that. D&D
And
teaches us that there's
it's a
that
good lesson.
reliance.
I
Yeah.
mean, you think about it, and mental health people that try to help us say this, you can't battle these alone.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, what we think our walls protect. The walls are the monsters and minions of the dragon
It's true.
around us that are
They've
layering layer after layer. So when you
yeah.
put up those walls, you're allowing the orcs to come and take the first line.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe the goblins on the second line. Then maybe the ettins on the third line.
yeah.
And those are your walls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
if you don't have people that can get through the walls in your life,
Mm-hmm.
that means that dragon's going to take you down with their minions and hurt you. I mean, they may not kill you, but they're sure as heck going to beat you up.
You're gonna leave marks, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then imagine going against a dragon with a quarter of your hit points. I mean,
Spell slots
oops.
drained. You've got nothing left. Yeah, and here you are trying to fight an
Yeah,
ancient rag.
oops.
You're like,
Yeah, my
oh.
spells are gone, my healing's gone, and I've got a quarter hit points. I'm going to get beaten senseless by
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you gotta let those party members and those NPCs and the other people in your life build a layer of defense that you can stand against the dragon. Yeah, you may get battered. That's okay, but the dragon doesn't beat you.
Yeah. That's
In
right.
fact, if anything, you beat the dragon back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the dragon may keep coming, but you just keep replenishing and healing and
Mm-hmm.
keep getting ready for the next day. That's what a party does.
Yeah. And I like the idea of um, experience gained.
Yeah,
And whether you do it milestone or whether you do it, XP points, whatever,
yeah,
the idea is there, and it's core to the game, right? The idea that the stuff that
absolutely.
you go through makes you better.
Yes, it
You
does.
learn from it, you improve for the
More
most part.
abilities, better roll,
So
better perks.
yeah, so slaying that dragon, getting past that dragon, your character in a mechanical sense benefits from it and gets better, but
Yeah.
also as a party, I think you learn something, and there's an
Yes.
experiential benefit as you're like, oh, you remember when we beat that dragon? Remember how we did that?
Yeah.
And you remember like, oh yeah, we did that by this, by working together, or by these abilities or whatever, and you learn experience. And there's a lot to be said. It's people are starting to talk about using D&D in classrooms to
Yeah.
teach problem solving,
Yeah. And it
to
does.
teach coping mechanisms, because you do learn problem solving. You learn
Absolutely.
how to take a situation and look at it from multiple angles and say, oh, okay, how do I approach this? This is option A, option B, option C. Like, I need to actually figure this out. And if you've done that in game already, you have some experience doing that, then you can look at a
Yeah.
problem in real life and come to it with the same mindset and say, maybe I need to shift my angle on this and look at it from a different way, and maybe then I'll find a way to deal with this thing that I
Yeah.
wasn't seeing otherwise.
It's it's really true. I mean, we had a longtime player of mine, and again, I don't mention names as you notice, because again, if I share things, I don't want them to feel
Oh
like they're
yeah,
getting
absolutely,
exposed. It's
absolutely.
more from what they went through.
Yeah,
He lost a son, and
that's hard.
it knocked the knees out from under him.
But yeah,
And super guy, tremendous dad. And the group came around him and we just kept reaching out to him. We weren't pushy. We just like, we miss you. We miss you
Mm-hmm.
at the table. I hope you're hanging in there. I know this is traumatic.
Mm.
And it's amazing because he said the reason he came back was because he and his son played D&D,
Wow.
and he knows his son would want him to get back up
Yeah.
and get back into the fight. I truly believe it saved his sanity
Mm.
and his well-being,
Mm.
and it was the game. And
Yeah.
you can say what you want to say. I mean, the negatives of the game, people want to say it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I saw it save a man and bring him back to life. And he's laughing now. I'm not going to say it's getting him through everything, but he's back towards the kind of man that I remember.
That's good.
And so that's all I can ask. If it
Yeah.
can make him
Yeah.
smile, if it makes him laugh, if it makes him forget his hurts,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I'm asking.
Well, and it can
And
be at the very least a moment of reprieve,
yeah,
you know,
and it
from
is for him.
life.
I mean, you can see it brought him, and he brought one of his good friends with him, I think, who also keeps him, in check and helps
Definitely.
him.
Yeah. That's good.
But the game, he looks forward to it. And they even did an alternate session where one of the players started 5e on the alternate weeks. Now I
Oh
can't
yeah.
join them, unfortunately, but now we have the Pathfinder 5e, Pathfinder 5e, and so
Gotcha.
he's got
That's
something every weekend
that's
that
good.
helps him through the battles.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I'd say to people who struggle, it's okay to play 2 games if you got the time. Do it. If it helps you to be
Yeah.
better, it helps you to feel stronger, then
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Well, and I think that speaks into something else too that I've found for myself, and I know, other people that I know have struggled with anxiety, is that idea that there is something to look forward to. Even if it's a mark on the calendar where you're simply writing D&D and
Yeah,
you're having a rough week or something like that, and you look at the calendar and you go,
right
okay,
there.
if I can make it to Friday,
Yeah,
I just gotta make it. I
exactly.
just gotta make it to next Tuesday
Yep.
because I've got D&D to look forward to, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And you've seen this in the critter community as well. So many
Mm-hmm.
people that have spoken about this reality where they've been going through rough situations in life, and one of the things that got them through was, I need to tune in next time to see what happens.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it was that something as silly as it might seem to some people, because it's a game, but it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It is something to look forward to. It's a
It's
bright spot, in a week that can be
it
dark
is.
or hard. It's a bright spot where you look at it and say, that is worth making it through to. That's worth
Well,
persevering to, so I can get to that point. I can sit around that table. I can play with my friends. I can let loose. I can imagine. I can be free from this for a moment, and then it strengthens you until the next time, until the next time.
yeah.
And so it is just a bright spot,
You always have to have some goal to look forward to in life. I mean, it's kind of funny, and people who have lived almost 100 years, you ask them what got them through. It
Mm-hmm.
was those little things, those little marks that
Mm-hmm.
say, I got to get to this,
Mm-hmm.
or I've got this in my life that I've got to get to. People who checked out as they retired were the ones who passed away the quickest
That's true.
because they had nothing to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, well, what happens if you ever retire? I said, well, if I ever do retire, I got gaming to look forward to. It'll never get
Yeah,
old
you
to
just
me.
keep playing it, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I'll always have something to look forward to and to keep my mind fresh.
yeah,
And that's the neat thing is that, you got to have those things.
yeah.
And gaming is such a fun thing to put in your life to look forward to. Why
Definitely.
not?
Yeah.
So,
And I've
yeah.
seen conversation on Twitter and stuff as well, right? That we're gonna be the generation of people in retirement homes that are, instead of playing cribbage and bridge, we're playing D&D around the
Exactly. I
table,
look
right? That's
forward to
that's what
that.
we're looking forward to. So, does that sound
Yes.
so bad? Not
No,
really.
that would be awesome. Have my books there, and everything. Yeah, I'm there.
Every day, like, all right, what are we doing? Let's play D&D. You just
I'm there.
it's something to look forward to, I think, in
Yeah,
some ways. So yeah,
it's a great part. You never get old. You can try a new system. Put a new system in
absolutely.
if it gets old.
Yeah, or
So,
go back to the old ones, which still people still play original
yes, they
D&D
will.
or second edition, because
Still
there's
fun.
enough editions, and especially in today's landscape of gaming, there's so many different
Oh,
game
yeah.
systems. There's
Yeah, so
there
much
there
material.
literally is something for everybody. You
Yeah,
know, there's cyberpunk,
whatever genre you
there's
like.
modern, there's ancient, there's everything you want you can
Superheroes,
find. Yeah,
supervillains.
yeah. I'm super excited about
Cthulhu.
Power Outage. If you've seen that one,
Ooh.
that looks really fun. I actually got
See,
a draft copy of that, and I think my kid's gonna like that because he's all about superheroes. So
yeah,
there's so much out there that
yeah.
even if like standard D&D or even Pathfinder or whatever is not your thing, there's something
So
there's something that's for you, you know.
I'm getting the eye from the lady that
Yeah.
I've been on long enough.
Are you
Sorry,
recording?
sorry, folks. It's
No,
just
that's
I gotta keep the lady happy too, because she's the
definitely.
one that supports me in such good things.
Well,
So
thank you so much, Rick, for joining me. It's
thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure to talk to you as always, and
It's been awesome.
look forward to seeing you in the community. And yeah, if you're on Twitter and you don't follow him yet, at RicM the GM, make sure you do.
Thank
Especially
you.
if you want an extra dose of positivity in your life
I
on
appreciate
a
it.
daily
It's been
basis. And
fun. I look forward to the next time we get to talk.
absolutely. So until next time, I hope that slaying your dragons in game will help you slay your dragons in real
Out of
life.
game. Yep.
Take care, guys.
Take care.